For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on your favorite podcast app. I got to tell you, there is so much happening today that I hope I can cover everything all in one shot. We were going to have a famed country music artist. We were going to do a celebrity segment, but I don't think there's time, so we'll maybe move that to next week. We've already talked to her, so it's a done deal. But we'll probably run that on the show next week. So here's what's going down, everybody. We celebrated a 9th birthday in our household for one of the dogs, and I'll tell you about the dog birthday parties in just a bit. I also celebrated the 20th anniversary of my high school graduation. If there's one thing that makes you old, it's when you see all these things about graduations and you're kind of like, oh yeah, I graduated in the year 2000. Holy cripes, that's 20 years ago. So I've got some stories to share about my high school experience. Maybe you can relate as well. And to our Canadian friends, Canada Day is here. And with the COVID corona, I'm not going to use the words that Trump uses, but the virus, the pandemic. Are you going full-on patriotic in terms of flag waving, fireworks, and all that kind of stuff? Are you going to the big celebrations this year? Something to think about. Something we have not thought about in previous years. All of that and more this week on The Scribble.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
All right, let's get rolling on the rants and raves this week. So 20 years since graduating high school. It's kind of weird. Now, here's also the deal. It's sort of like a milestone week for a bunch of things. So 20th anniversary of me graduating. My accountant turned 50 years old. My cousin's husband turned 60 years old. And my dog turned 9. Not quite a milestone, but you know what? At 9 years old, I think for a dog, every year is a milestone after they get, he's a senior dog now, apparently, right? So anyway, let's talk about the graduation thing first. We had the idea a week or so ago to do almost sort of like a audio high school reunion, right? And first of all, I've got to say, with the virus, I don't know if there was going to be a 20th anniversary reunion anyway, because once I graduated high school, I got the hell out of there from my school in Winnipeg, I got to tell you. And it wasn't anything about the school. Let me just explain before you think that I'm knocking my high school. I was doing job placements. I knew from a very early age what I wanted to do in life. And so there was a program at my school, Sisler High School in Winnipeg, that enabled students to either do a day job shadowing, where you could go, like, I want to be, whatever. I want to be a plumber, I want to be a teacher, I want to be whatever. And there were opportunities to go and witness that, right? Go side by side with somebody who's in that profession for a day. I wanted to be a writer and broadcaster, so I was set up with the Winnipeg Police Service. I was writing for their community newsletter, their newsletter that they produced. I'd have to look it up, see if it's still around, because that was kind of fun. And then I was teamed up with the CBC, which is Canada's public broadcaster. So what I did was I would basically be out of the classroom, I was out of the school building more than I was actually there. So about 3 days a week, I was basically working. And with the CBC, I was teamed up with a reporter side by side. So I went in the morning, went to their morning meeting, and here I am, like a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid. I'm in the meeting with them. I'm teamed up with her. We get our assignment, whatever it is, and we go out for the day. We do the shoots. I go into the editing suite after, so like early afternoon, and then I go and sit in the control room during the 6 o'clock news. That was pretty frickin' cool for a kid to be able to do that, right? And then, once you're there long enough, you almost sort of start to feel like an employee, which was very strange because it's like, yeah, no, I'm a kid, and I looked very young. I still look very young, but it was certainly quite an experience. And then on the flip side of that, with the police service, I was writing for their newsletter, and I was invited to go to an event that they were having. I was picked up in not a police car, but one of their Speed Demon Cruiser kind of a car. I don't know if there's a certain brand or maker model or whatever. Just an unmarked car that goes very, very fast. And it was kind of cool because they show up to my parents' place in the morning and, pick me up. And here I am just hanging with the cops for the day. So those are my 2 job placements. I did that in grade 11 and 12. And I was the first student to do 2 concurrent job placements. This wasn't just like the job shadowing thing for a day, like I mentioned. This was, I did this for quite some time. So while the other students were being kids, basically, they were doing the driver's ed, they were doing the extracurricular activities. In junior high, I was part of all of the different, teams and performing arts, and I was in the musicals and things like that. High school was a different story. I was just so grown up. And I missed out on that, but I kind of figured this is going to put me on the right path for the future, so I'm gonna go with it, and I did. And look at all these years later, here I am, broadcasting, and I'm 38 years old. I own a company. I have best-selling books, and one of the cool things about my school was I was determined to be a journalist. I wanted to be a newspaper reporter back in the day. And the Winnipeg Free Press was the big newspaper right across from my school. Literally right across. There was the school, and there was a field, there was a block, but I could basically see the newspaper building every day when I left school. And to me, that was almost motivating too, because I said, I'm going to work there one day. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in that newsroom. I was obsessed with journalism. The Free Press had a school program where they would drop off a bundle of newspapers at different schools across the city. That was the first thing that I did when I went into the school in the morning. I would go to the office. There'd be the bundle of papers. The days that it wasn't there, I was pissed. I was pissed. Think about that. A 15, 16-year-old kid. First of all, if you're that age right now, Google newspaper. You'll see what we're talking about. But that set me off for the day. If I couldn't get my free copy of the newspaper, that just pissed me right off. So, so I was a bit of a grown up when I was a teenager. So, we had the idea of having kind of a bit of a reunion. So we're maybe let's get some of my teachers, let's get the principal from my school, let's talk to some of my classmates and things like that. I go through my yearbook. I've got my grade. I guess it was my 10, 11, and 12. There were 3 of them, so it would be grade 10, 11, 12. And I start flipping through the pages. Not kidding you. I start at the A's, right? It's alphabetical. I start at the A's. I don't recognize almost anybody. And what I mean by that is it's the name and the faces. Sometimes I recognize the face because maybe I went from elementary all the way to high school with them. Okay, I remember them. I might not know anything about them, but I just know that they were in my school, right? Because you're around them for 10, 12 years. Outside of that, and I went to a very, very big high school, so I'm just I'm making up these numbers. So let's say that there were 500 graduates, or 500 people in my grade. I knew by name maybe 20 of them. By face, I knew maybe 10 of the 500 people. Again, that's just my made-up number. But what my point is that I didn't spend much time at school, so I didn't have those relationships or those bonds with very many people. And so then I was kind of maybe this isn't a really good idea, you guys, because you're going to reach out to these random people on most likely social media, right? You're going to Google their names or whatever it is, and they're going to say, hey, do you want to talk to Jeremy? And they're going to be like, who dat is what they're going to ask you. I said, this is going to be more embarrassing for me than for them, because they could easily just come on the radio or come on the podcast and be like, I don't remember you at all, kid. What did you do? And I still don't even know who you are. So what's the story? So it would be very embarrassing for me. Now, we did reach out to my high school, and we did reach out to the principal, George Heshka, who, by the way, is still the principal there after all these years. He's been at the school for 40-some years. We asked if we could do maybe just a tour, because I know the building has grown since then, and there's some new... there's been a new gymnasium put on, new different parts of the building. We were told no because of the coronavirus, and we also asked him if he'd like to do a phone interview and kind of talk about the programs that the school offers and the awards they've won, because they were really great at education, and Mr. Heshka never got back to us on that. So, and I realize he's busy. It's the end of the school year. There's this virus thing, so, there we go. But yeah, what was your high school like? So I want to hear from you live at jbonair.com. If you have had a reunion since then, I'm not saying if you've gone to it, if you've had one, 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20-year, if you had one, shoot me an email and then tell me if you went or you didn't go. Now, I've been talking with several people since we kind of were brainstorming this idea. And a lot of people said, well, yeah, you know what, yeah, there was a reunion, but I didn't go. I think a lot of people are chalking it up to social media, where it's kind of like, well, I'm in touch with people, so it's not like I've never seen them. So it's a different story than back in the day, right, where it was put out there that, the alumni newsletter that you might get, and then here it's happening this day and this day. Well, now with Facebook. And so then I kind of, on the flip side, said to myself, well, if these people were important to me, and I'm talking my peers, my fellow students, my classmates, if they were important to me, I would have reached out in all this time, right? 20 years has passed. Granted, Facebook hasn't been around for 20 years, but certainly, those names, those key names that you remember, you look them up and then you reconnect. And I've just never had an interest in doing that. So that's what I say, is that obviously, education is important. I'm not downplaying that. And the high school experience certainly is, I would encourage you to go through it and finish school. But to me, when I look back at it now, I'm turning 38 this summer, I don't have that fond memory of my time in high school. And again, maybe that was partially because I was only there, 2 of the days of the week, maybe 3 of the days of the week. So send me an email, live at JB on Air. What was your high school like? And secondly, if you're an adult, if you're in your 30s, 40s, whatever, if you're fully grown now, tell me if you would want to be in high school nowadays. Do you think it's better or worse to be a student going through school? I would have no desire to be a kid and a teenager and growing up and being... But sometimes I even feel crummy being an adult in this world, so I don't even want to do that. But tell me, if you could go back in time now, would you want to be be a student in school in today's world? When I was going to Sisler High School, my mom, who also went there, by the way, my mom, my aunt, and my uncle all went to this school. My mom said, you don't want to go there. Kids get beat up in the bathrooms. And I got to tell you, now remember, I've already said I wasn't in school a lot, but I never heard about fights ever there. Never heard about fights ever. The big issue that students had, and this is true, but I kind of credit the school for fostering, responsible adults, is that there was a detention policy, a late policy, so that if you were late even 2 seconds, I'm not kidding you, if your foot stepped over the threshold of the doorway 2 seconds after the bell went, or whatever it was, you got detention. And you had to serve that detention either after school that day, so after school today, or before school tomorrow morning. Or you were not allowed in class and you were considered absent. Sometimes the teacher would let you come to class still, but you were still marked absent. And of course that worked against you, and your parents or whatever would be called. That was back when kids were afraid of their parents and didn't want to piss them off. Now apparently it's a different story, where like the parents are siding with the kids full stop and coming at the teachers during those conferences when they, defend their precious little children at that point. Anyway, my mom, my brother, my sister-in-law, my uncle are all teachers, so I can say that with great authority and know what I'm talking about. But it was that detention policy where it made us go, oh crap, I am late. I'm literally running down the halls, and you would see students doing that. There was none of this leisurely walking in and, we skipped school. Yeah, you cut class, but this was like you wanted to follow that rule because, and again, as much as you disagreed with it and you hated it and you thought it's so stupid when you're a kid, fast forward all these years when you're an adult and you're working and, punctuality and responsibility play a huge part. And so I credit Sisler with having those. I don't know if they still do that. I can't ask Mr. Heshka because he hasn't responded to our request to appear on the show. But certainly, Sisler, it was the largest school in my province of Manitoba when I was growing up. I think it's still one of the biggest in the province, if not at least the city anyway. And I think it was great in terms of the programs that were offered to the students and how we were treated. I think things were great. 20 years ago, what it's like now, not a clue.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
True. Jeremy Bradley, you're back at the Scribble. We were just laughing because, if I did go to a reunion, people would be like, I have no idea who you are. I don't. Who is this kid? I don't even know. My dogs have become somewhat celebrities on our syndicated radio shows over the years. The Golden Retriever is 12 years old, and my Lab Cross just turned 9. And so what we do in our house, now here's the thing, we often do it at the office, but we had to do it in the house this year, was we decorate, we do photo ops and all the fun. We got balloons and streamers and so now, because the dogs like party hats, and this started back with it was the royal wedding for William. So that was a long time ago. And then when Harry had his, which was I guess 2 years. How long have they been married? 2 years now. Harry and Meghan, 2 years. Anyway. So it's kind of fun where we go to the craft store, we get a whole bunch of like feathers and birds and ribbon and just tacky as all hell stuff. And we spread it all out over the floor, and then the dogs kind of like sniff, and whatever they take a shine to, that's what gets added to their hat. They each get a hat for the photo op. And so we did that again with the 9th birthday for my dog Basil, who is the Labrador Retriever Cross. Labrador Retriever Cross. There we go. And so we had to do it at home this time. But I want to know if you celebrate your pet's birthdays. Now, in full disclosure on this one, he didn't just turn 9. He came from the, is it called the Pound still? The city, the city Pound, right? That's what it was called back in my day. The animal shelter? Okay, the city animal shelter he came from. And it was the 9th anniversary of the day that I got him. And they naturally, of course, don't know when the birthday is, right? That this was just a dog that was brought in, and there's no backstory. They don't really know what the deal is. So they just estimated that he was about 6 months old when I got him. So full on, okay, there we go. You just caught me in a lie. He didn't just turn 9, all right? But it's the 9th anniversary, and basically it's more kind of like, hey, this is the 9th anniversary of the day that I gave you a new life. This is the day that I took you from the shelter, from the chain link concrete that you were living in, and gave you a fabulous home with decorative hats. I mean, come on. And the dogs really do like it. And they know when they see the balloons getting blown up and the streamers going up, they get very, very excited that there's going to be a photo shoot. And so, like I said, this time it was different to do it at home, but they really got into it. So I want to know, and of course the dogs dress up for Halloween and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's also part of our business. The dogs have a line of greeting cards in the United States. They have, the dogs make some good coin, let me tell you. They don't just regularly wear clothing around the house. That much I can say. But do you dress up your dogs? Do you have pictures of your dog wearing a party hat? Ever. Whether it's New Year's, Christmas, a birthday, send it to me. live@jbonair.com is the email address. live@jbonair.com. Because I think, dogs like to have fun just as much as a human. And, for people who make fun of me and go and say, oh my God, you dress up your dogs. First of all, they make good money. They make way more than minimum wage. And secondly, they really get into it. If they didn't like it and if they were fussing when we would, put something on them, no, they sit perfectly for their photos because they know that it's a good time and they get treats and it turns into a thing. So, again, send me your pet shots live at jbonair.com.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Once again, happy Canada Day to our Canuck friends, our Canadian friends who are tuned in. And if you're Canadian and you're somewhere else in the world, I hope they have a low coronavirus rate. That's sort of my first thought for you. But that leads us into the next discussion. With July 1st here and 4th of July coming up next weekend for our American friends, do you plan on going all out? Here's the thing. Canada Day for me is never really a big day. This isn't something where I sit and plan for weeks at a time and go, okay, I'm going to go here and then I'm going to go watch the fireworks here. It's kind of decided that same day. I think a lot of it probably is also depending on the weather too, right? But to me, it's not like this is Christmas. This is just sort of a day to kind of like, all right, I'm just going to go where there's something happening. I don't really know many people that have like a barbecue or anything like that. So yeah, you kind of just go and see, like, is there something happening at the community center down the street, or at the big park, at the zoo, like where, what are they doing? Are they doing anything? And then just sort of make up your mind that day. It's a wing it kind of a day. Anyway, and it always is for me. But here's the deal. This is where I will give credit to the Americans, is that I feel Americans are much more patriotic than Canadians. Now, despite the unrest that we see, right now, what I'm saying, I'm talking like 4th of July stuff. When I'm talking flag waving and fireworks and, preaching about how much you love your country, to me, I feel that that's way more American than it is Canadian. And that's not to say, let me finish my thought. That's not to say that Canadians don't love their country and aren't patriotic. I'm just saying they're a little bit more low-key and reserved about it. And like when I'm in the States, because again, I spend a lot of my time in Los Angeles, or in Southern California anyway, I see American flags at households, I see it everywhere there. And that's great. I applaud that. But when it comes to, the flag waving and the raucous kind of proud of your country kind of thing, that's just not Canadian. It is, though, at the Olympics when we win gold in hockey. I was in Vancouver for the, was that 2010 Vancouver? Was that 10 years ago already? Yeah. For the Olympics when Canada won gold in hockey. I was there. That's a different kind of moment altogether. But what are your plans this year then? Are you going somewhere where it's, again, you can be outdoors for this. So the coronavirus thing, as long as you're wearing your mask and you're staying away from people, I don't see a problem with going out and watching fireworks. If you're in a giant field and you don't have somebody shoulder to shoulder with you, okay, right? Isn't that what they're telling us? It's okay to be outside that way. And if you have your mask, then you're good. But what are you going to just stay in? Are you going to do a low-key kind of a thing? Or are you going to go to the outdoor parks and festivals and listen to the band play and sing the national anthem and do all that kind of stuff? It depends on the weather, right? If it's pouring down rain, I'm not going to the fireworks because they're not going to happen. And then, in fairness, Americans, you've been burning down a bunch of your cities, and we've seen fireworks in recent years. You didn't have to wait for 4th of July for that, but certainly it does make you pause and think, how am I celebrating my country this year? So send me an email, live at jbonair.com, live at jbonair.com. How are you celebrating your Canada Day or your 4th of July?
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
JB here, back on The Scribble. I was talking about my 9-year-old dog that just celebrated his anniversary with us, not his birthday. There we go, I'll make that clarification. And he just came into the room during that Twitter shout-out. And I have noticed that dogs, like humans, grunt and groan more as they get older. Now my dogs, when they lay down on the floor, on the couch, or whatever it is, they will lay down and then you'll hear like a, Or if you stop playing with them or you don't pay attention, they make it clear how they're feeling by the noises they make. Maybe that's just mine. Tell me, do your dogs make more noises as they get older? Or, when they finally get settled and they let out a grunt or a groan? Live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. We've got about 5 minutes left. Got to tell you this quick story from a restaurant in my hometown, again, of Winnipeg, Manitoba. I was at the restaurant twice in the past week with my colleague, and mainly we were there to have drinks, but if a bite of food ended in our mouths, so be it. And it was very empty because of this whole virus thing, right? The restaurants are reopening, but you can't sit, arm's reach or whatever of somebody. Go to the washroom, naturally to wash my hands, right? You got to wash your hands the 17 times or whatever they say. And first of all, I hate these bathroom ads that are everywhere now. I wrote a column about that called Let Me Piss in Private. There should be at least one place where we're not bombarded with advertising. And it's a bathroom. When you're taking a leak, guys, when you're standing at the urinal, do you really want an ad like 4 inches from your face on the wall? I don't. Or if you go into the stall, like you just want to have that moment. Sure, you could argue that it gives you something to read while you're sitting there, but no. So I go and I look on the wall in the bathroom, and there's this giant ad that says, "Are you fat?" ? In all caps. Are you fat? So, first of all, a whole bunch of things on this one. You're in a restaurant bathroom, first off. Secondly, are you fat? How politically incorrect is that? And third, again, you're in a restaurant, so it's almost kind of like making you feel bad about what you've just ordered. Anyway, so this is a third-party ad. It says, overweight, obese, fast and effective weight loss treatment. No need for expensive programs that often do not work. And then there was a link to a website. But again, are you fat in all caps is what you're being asked in a bathroom at a restaurant. But wait, there's more. Okay. There was an ad beside that one, beside the "Are you fat" ad, for no scalpel, no needle vasectomy. I'm not making this up. You're in a restaurant, likely where you're hungry or thirsty. Think about that. And you're thinking about cutting up your junk. I think maybe if you were drinking too much, maybe they're looking out for you. Maybe the restaurant's doing you a public service announcement here. Maybe they're going and saying, you know what, you're here with somebody who's fat, so maybe you don't want to make kids. And again, like, I'm laughing because it's just so ridiculous that you wouldn't think in this year, 2020, you would not think that is kosher to have that anywhere, not just in a restaurant. Are you fat? Now, maybe you would see that on like those TV commercials where it's like, do you have too much belly fat? Okay, in context, in a sentence, whatever, but just, are you fat, right there in your face. So I reached out to the restaurant. This is what's funny. I reached out to the corporate office and locally for a comment. The corporate office did not respond, but locally, this is what they say. Thank you for bringing the advertisements to our attention. While we have been focusing on enforcing all the new legislation to ensure we are doing our part to help prevent the spread of COVID and keeping our business alive, we overlooked the advertising. We have contacted the third-party company to rectify this. So basically, nobody from the restaurant has been into the bathroom. Nobody in charge pays attention to the facilities. So if you're so focused on the cleanliness right now and making sure that everything is cool, you'd think a bathroom would be getting a lot of traffic and attention from the staff and management to make sure things are okay, right? But, and again, I understand that the restaurant industry has been hit hard. I'm not denying that. But PR 101 is you apologize for the offensive stuff you have in your restaurant. I get that it's a third-party ad or whatever the deal is, but own it. Own it. Come on. Apologize and own it. Instead, you're playing the victim as though I've got to feel sorry for you. Oh, I'm sorry that you're going under and you're going out of business, but you also just called me fat in your restaurant. Anyway, I think it's sort of funny. I'm not being a shit disturber. I'm kind of like, I'd like to know your thoughts on this. Who okayed this ad? You're taking the money and looking the other way. This is one of those third-party things where there's like, bathroomads.com or whatever the company is. You're still taking the money from these people, right? They're paying you to advertise in your bathrooms. Like on our radio shows, we have full say over the ads on our shows. It's not just But in a bathroom, nobody's even looking. None of the staff is even looking, going, wait a second. That's kind of not cool. Live at jbonair.com. Tell me your thoughts. We're out of time. Again, happy Canada Day to our Canadian listeners. I'm going to talk to you again before the 4th of July, so I won't wish you a happy 4th right now. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.